Well, thanks so much for joining me. I'll tell you what we've got to do today. I've got a theory that if Vesuvius was to go off today, it would bury Pompeii in Alfredo sauce, because it seems to me people who would be eating would be crouched forevermore, petrified in solid Alfredo sauce. Well, anyway, if you took a sauce which is thick and rich and creamy over pasta, and you know just exactly how that tastes, how about it if I were to create with you today a sauce and a soup at the same time, so you can have it either as a soup sauce, and yet it would be low down, I mean right down on the deck as far as fat was concerned. I thought that would be neat. And I thought that I wanted to make it colorful too, rather than just that sort of creamy white sauce that you see on all the menus. So I thought of two colors. First color I thought of was orange, color it orange, and a lovely orange sauce. And then I thought, well, I'd do another one which is green, because I like green things. And so this is just part of the creative process and what I go through sometimes. I thought orange, and I thought to myself, what shall I have in there? I thought, well, I'll put some orange, some real orange in there. Some chicken stock with orange. Cumin would be nice with the orange. That works well. Butternut squash. I love butternut squash. And a little garlic, maybe some sweet corn reindeer in there. Oh, and wouldn't rosemary. Wouldn't that smell wonderful? So that's the kind of creative sort of thing that I did. It's not a bad idea to jot something down on a plate and sort of come up with things. On the green side, green peas. Obviously, I love green peas. And there's some fresh dill, leek, cayenne pepper, a little ginger in there somewhere. Hey. Oh, and I'll tell you, before I got into this, I was really enthusiastic. Then when I did it, I got super enthusiastic. And now it's hard to hold me down. Come on, I'll show you how to do it. Now, this is one of my favorite things. In fact, I could almost call this Sound of Music soups and sauces. Sorry, it's favorite, and then cut it up like that. This is a butternut squash, and this is about 2 pounds, which is about the right size that you need. But we need an enormous knife to get through it. About the right size, you need to get about 3 cups of puree out of it. And the puree is got in a very easy way. See how dense this is? It's a smooth vegetable before you start. Now, don't season it. I think don't take the seeds out. Just pop it in there and put it in the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, 180 degrees centigrade, and then let it cool down a bit. Cook it for about 40 minutes. Okay? And then when you've baked it, you can just sort of walk away, set the timer on the oven, everything else like this, and you just lift that back. Oh! And it's deepened in color. It's got some of the moisture that is in the vegetable and actually is taken out. Those are the seeds. You just remove the seeds. And it's already smooth. Look, you could take an ice cream scoop to this and scoop it up. By the way, it's a beautiful vegetable, just like this. You could stop right there, saving all our time. And then get it all out, and you'll have, when you scrape it properly, you'll just have a total of 3 cups of puree. Okay, fine. Put that on one side. Pan on the heat, and a quarter. We're really getting down there. I thought a teaspoon was going to be the ask, but that's 1/4 teaspoonful of oil. And he said, Graham, why bother? I'll show you. It's once again this thing that we've been doing together, unless you've just joined me for the first time, which is nice to have you. But what we do is just place a couple of cloves of garlic. Just beat that down. After that, you can break bricks with your hand in the end if you do this a lot. And then you don't need to chop that up because it's going to go through a blender. So any stray pieces. And drop that garlic down onto the oil. And there it will just sizzle a little bit, just breaking the natural oils out, just bubbling away. If it's too hot there, it'll scorch. And I don't want that to happen. I just want it to release the natural oils in that area there. Okay, chicken stock. Now, chicken stock is, well, chicken stock. You need actually 3 cups of chicken stock, or 2 cups if you're going to make an actual sauce. Now, it's really interesting. It's more concentrated and flows in a soupy, lovely way, saucy, lovely way, all over the top of the pasta. All right, so when this is sizzled just enough, you then pour on the chicken stock. You see, well, what's enough, Graham? Well, just enough. You can really smell it around the kitchen. The garlic has just lifted up and it hasn't scorched. Now, in here, this is like a large tea bag if you were going to make one of these tea things. And I've used this now and again for spiky things and bits of herb that I don't want to get dislodged in the dish. So throw it in, and it does a terrific job. All right. And they're tight. I did one the other day and wrapped it in a piece of muslin, and then it wound all the way around into the dish. And I got it, I ate it. And I was eating this piece of muslin encasing the rosemary. And by the way, that was the 3 cups of stuff that we got. And it tasted awful. I thought, oh gosh, there's something wrong with the recipe, but it was the muslin. Okay, 1 cup of sweet corn. All right, so there's the orange and there's the yellow as well. And then, hey, this is really strange, but salt's not strange. There's a 1/4 teaspoonful of salt there. An 1/8 of a teaspoon. There's a 1/4 teaspoonful here of ground pepper and a 1/4 teaspoonful, this is really strange, of ground cumin seed. That's the partner to cayenne pepper, which goes to make chili powder. And it's a wonderful taste. And with vegetables like this, it just works terrifically well. Okay, so this is all put on and is simmered just to get everything up to heat and together. Fine. Now, just here, I've got some water on the boil, and this is the pasta that we're going to use. I love this pasta. It's not long pieces. They get down your tie and make a mess. But these are called radiatori, and also ruffles. I don't like the word ruffle, but radiatori, like a radiator in a car. And you put 1 ounce of those if you're going to use it as a soup, and you put 2 ounces per head if you're going to use it as a pasta. In long, stick, well-seasoned water. There's a good 1/4 teaspoonful of salt in there altogether. And always make sure that the water is boiling vigorously. Put a lid on it just for the moment, and the moment it starts to come to the boil, lift the lid off, and time that just for 11 minutes, okay? 11 minutes. Great. Hey, look, let's nip off to the supermarket, right, and have a look at those vegetables and fruits, actually, that you can put together as smooth sauces. Really neat stuff. Over to you.
Thanks, Graham. Okay. Well, now, I've been doing a bit of shopping around here, and you know what we're trying to do is create these sauces and soups, but I went to look to see what you'd have to do if you actually went out and got the carton itself, the ready prepared mix. And here's one which has an extraordinary number of calories, 190 calories per serving, but it has 153 calories from fat. That's a jolly yellow giant, it seems to me. But that's not the only one. I've got a whole carton here full, including one of these nifty new packages. Watch out for this one, because by regulation now, if something is under 12 square inches, say 3 inches by 4, which this is, they don't have to put the exposure of what it is on the label anymore. They give you a 1-800 number so you can ring them up after you're suffering. Anyway, great stuff if you happen to be very well and don't use it too often and you're in a hurry. On the other hand, you could use this. Now, first of all, these are the butternut squash, and these are rather dinky little ones, but normally they're a little larger than this, but they're very nice. They have a lovely smooth texture. And so is the acorn. And some of these Hubbards, all sort of same characteristic is you'll find them all around one of these bins which are in the middle of the market, obviously. They shouldn't be refrigerated, and that's part of the quality and the reason why they've got that smoothness. An avocado. In the fruit area, a papaya does marvelous things, and a mango, if it's really ripe and you just press it at either end, it's just ripe. By the way, if you press it, buy it. That goes in. Banana as well. You can see all are smooth. You can know if you've ever tasted any of those things. Always think about how smooth it was when you tasted it. Then it's a good chance it'll make a great sauce or a soup. Okay, let's have a look at these. Some mushrooms. These are rather nice thing. I haven't seen these before, but these are oyster. These have been cultivated now. They're called an oyster mushroom. It's got a very fine, very extraordinary taste to them, and a little bit like an oyster. And this one is a shiitake mushroom, which has also been cultivated now. Brown on the top, dark brown on the top, and quite white underneath. This is lovely, quite large pieces, and just cook it through enough. It's got a marvelous taste to it. Okay, ordinary mushrooms can do the same thing, but here's a couple of odd things which you might not have thought of. Butter beans. Butter beans can be put into a food processor and sieved around and really do a great job. You know, they go well as well. You'll feel it. It's a little bit fiberish, but it's fun. And, of course, the peas, which are in the frozen food area, which we've had a look at before. Also peppers. But we'll look at peppers on another occasion. All right? All of these things come together to give you that wonderful mouth-round fullness which we're trying to look for in this dish. All right, back to you, Graham. Let's see how it's done.
Oh, thank you. Isn't that interesting? There's so many things, and next time you shop, just think smooth. Just be smooth when you go shopping. All right. It just occurred to me, of course, it would be such a good idea with the rosemary is to put it into the chicken stock before you start and simmer it there. Much better. All right, well, take that out. You'll notice it in the blender if you don't take it out. And now we've got to thicken this up a little bit. And using here, because I'm going to use a little yogurt downliner, just a little bit further. And so I'm going to make sure that this works, and therefore it has to be cornstarch. You see, if you use arrowroot, which is my favorite thickener, and I use that in the other one, it just doesn't work so well. It becomes sort of slippery. The texture's wrong. So always cornstarch when you're thickening something which is going to have yogurt in it or any dairy product. Good. Stir that. That's a slurry. Take it off the heat before you add it and pour it all in there. Turn it round. It doesn't thicken straight away as it does with arrowroot. It's got to go back on the heat and 30 seconds to twizzle round to get that starch taste. Oh, this is just fabulous. The smell is wonderful. Get the starch taste of the cornstarch out of the way. All right, into this other pan here, and here, same technique, basically, just a little bit more oil this time, just a teaspoonful. And here I've got one of these rhizome. This is a garlic root, you know, well, it's a rhizome, really. It runs along the top. And we simply cut that out into little tiny squares. Chop it up. You could grate it, I suppose, but honestly, I think that it's better like that. And so you'd use a couple of tablespoons full. And just drop that down on top with the oil. Fine. Now, what you do after this is just to take one of these long leeks here, and this is about 8 ounces. And so you chop this up finely. Just chop it right the way through. Make sure it hasn't got any grit in the upper part of the leaves here, because then that would spoil the sauce altogether. Smooth, gritty sauce. Right, we're nearly finished with that one. So let's pop the leek down there, 8 ounces of leek, popped on top of the ginger, just ginger and leek. And when you smell that, it starts to hit your nose, you'll say, this is cooking. This is baby dill, and you can get this now in most supermarkets around where the herbs are, and then it goes off quickly. So this is something to grow yourself in your own herb garden. There's just a ½ cup of baby dill. Throw that in. Good. That's all smashed up together. And then I've got my own favorite vegetable stock. And I'm going to pour the same amount, the same 3 cupfuls on there. The 4th cup making soup makes it up into 4 cups, you know, with all of this debris when it goes into the dish. I've got it in my book. I hate saying this to you, but it is in the book, and the recipe for making a vegetable stock is there, and it has all these ingredients in it, and I've got to get on with things. So when this is thickened, and here's the one that is thickened here, here is the butternut one. You then take it across here, stand back, having removed the herb ball, and then shake it all in. That's the reason why it's just 3 cupfuls, so that it actually goes in. And then pop this on the top, put your finger on the top there, and begin to run it. Now, whilst it's running, let me show you in the fridge here. I use such a lot of strained yogurt. You know, this business of taking a non-fat, plain yogurt, putting it out over a container and letting it drain out, and it's thick and creamy and wonderful. This is the large size one, but there's a small size one. It takes about 8 hours to be able to do that. There's a little dinky one if you want to experiment. And it strains out, you've got whey in the bottom and the strained yogurt in the top. So take a large container like this one. It doesn't have to be quite that big, but it's the biggest one we've got around here. And when this is whizzed up, you simply remove the top and get a whisk and pour a little of that. It's already quite thick, you see. But what you want to do is just to give it that creamy dairy taste. And you see how that goes now. That's hot, but if you pour it on top, it won't break the yogurt. And breaking means that it hasn't any fat to hold it together. So the trouble is that it actually fractures, and you get hundreds of little pieces throughout the whole dish, and it looks awful. But if you do it that way, you will never fail. Pour it back into the saucepan once again. Look how creamy that is. Now that's soup style. If you only had 2 cups with that same recipe, that would be really thick now, and you'd be able to make a magnificent sauce. Same concept with this, except that you add a pound of peas. Now, just pop those on the top, and straight away, having met those basic elements going together, you then take this up, and I just have to show you this one, because it's such a neat color. Let me pour it in. Just slosh it in, and when you turn this on, it's one of the most beautiful things. You just see these peas whirling round and round and round. Really, watch it, okay? Look at the color. Look at that color. As it deepens and deepens and deepens as it goes, and it's just terrific. You take that, and you pour that into a sieve, a hand sieve like this, and you'll have to push it through a little bit with one of these if you want it really smooth. And if you're going to soup, you can actually include this fiber in it as well. But it changes the quality of it. This is so rich and wonderful. And that's been thickened in the same way, but with arrowroot instead of the cornstarch. You fine? Okay. Now, let's take the pasta up, put a little colander in the bottom of the sink there, pour most of the water out, almost all of it, and then lift that up, put it in a bowl like that, and pour the rest of the pasta in. Now here, the hot water will keep it cracking. You know, it'll drain out nicely, but it'll keep it nice and warm, and it's a great technique. Ready? So what you do is this. You're going to serve this up. All you have to do is take a spoonful of the pasta, and this is if you're actually going to serve it as a pasta dish, you'd say a couple of spoonfuls each. 1 spoonful if you're going, thanks so much, that's the pasta ready. Just a little al dente. Suit the tooth, it's always better for the digestion. And then a spoonful of the green sauce over the top. Look at that sauce. It's just beautiful. Oh, you can pour it, of course, straight from the pan. And look at that one. That looks, for all the world, as if it was solid, full of cheese and fat and everything else. You're going to see the numbers in one moment, and it is not. A couple of dishes, and just 1 tablespoonful on each one of a little freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Just 1 tablespoon each. Come on, let's taste it. Okay.
What do these parents have in common?
There were like gaps in her learning skills. It was like Swiss cheese. But now she has a good foundation.
He went from grades B's and C's to A's and B's.
Successful kids in Sylvan.
She went from a 4th grade level to an 8th grade level in her comprehension, and she couldn't wait to go back.
Find out what Sylvan can do to help your child today. Call 1-800-EDUCATE.
Homework was a very frustrating time for us. Now I even help my brothers with homework.
Every day, Sylvan's proven approach pinpoints what kids need to succeed and helps them master it.
She's made more progress with 5 months of Sylvan than 5 years of tutors.
It's a system that inspires kids to love learning. For help with reading, math, test prep, and more, call now and learn more about our programs. They're more affordable than you think.
I tell everybody about Sylvan. It was a great experience.
So call 1-800-EDUCATE.
So easy to get started. Just one call and we were in.
Coming up next on the American Life TV network, Alive and Well, followed by Till Death Do Us Part and Fixing Dinner.
It is such a neat idea to be able to have a thick, creamy soup, which has the accent on cream. It looks great. They're beautiful orange and green. And anyway, I'm going to compare that with the classic here. And this is a pumpkin soup with a bit of cinnamon in it. And here's a classic creamy pea soup with a spot of cream in the middle, of course, which is classic way in which it's presented. Let's have a look at the numbers. Now, they've got numbers everywhere this time, but let me just highlight a couple of things. This is the butternut one, and this is the green pea column. Okay, let's look at the butternut one first, the orange one. It's 104 calories is the basic soup for that. Ours goes up a little bit to 119, but notice 2 grams of fat. And that translates into 12% of calories from fat instead of 52% over here. And it's right down on cholesterol, only 0.3, and down to 56. You see, so that's a good soup. The green pea soup was 259, it's quite high, and that's half, that's 143. 13 grams of fat down to 2 there, and that translates to 15% of calories from fat, which is great, and 0, of course, cholesterol. But let's see for a moment what this would be if you had fettuccine Alfredo, all right? It would be 1,700 calories and 130 grams of fat in it, which when you compare the two is a tolerable amount of saving, isn't it? It's an amazing, I didn't really want to compare it, but it's a little bit unfair. All right, let me just have a little touch of this. Now, this is made as, oh, it's such a fresh, gorgeous taste. Well, I'll tell you, that's one of the great dishes of all time. Okay, do try it. Springboard, won't you? A little while ago, a good friend of mine, John McLean, and he's our production manager, gave this to me, and I looked at it, and of course, being so fixated as I am about food, I looked at that and I thought of peas whirling around in a blender, just like in the program. And I thought, well, what's funny about that? I mean, you know, he said, you might like this for your car. And I thought, oh, John, really? He said, don't you think it's funny? And I said, well, I suppose so, yes. He said, well, speak it out. And I said, visualize world peace. Oh. And I was suddenly going, oh, gosh, how thick I was. You got it, of course, straight away. This is a question of visualizing. I'm going to see whether I have the nerve to be able to put that on the back of my car sometime. So if you see me driving around, you'll know it's me. I've got this visualization thing for you. So visualize this if you can with me. A, B, C, D, E, F. Obviously, that's clear. That's the alphabet. But what if A, B, C, D was a sequence, and rather like in your mind, a main track, a habit. You're used to having pasta, used to having a creamy, cheesy, eggy, buttery sauce in there, and you sit down to something else and it doesn't compute. It doesn't say what this is. It's like a super highway of habit in your mind. Well, alongside the highway, there is a meadow. These are tufts of grass here, so there's a meadow there. And instead of those letters there, it's F, E, D, C, B, A. And if you saw those initials, would you know that that was the alphabet backwards? Well, no, not straight off, not at a glance, you know. You think, something strange about that. What is that? And then finally you'd work it out. Well, you know, you can actually learn the alphabet backwards. It's much the same way as learning to eat something different, even though it looks the same. Instead of actually taking this dish, now, come on, you could actually look at this dish and its whole creaminess, the whole presentation of that, you could say, oh, I know just how that's going to taste. You're going A, B, C, D, E, F in your mind. And then it doesn't. And somehow you're foiled and you get irritable. You say, that's not right. That's not the way it should be. But no, if you're going to do a new dish, forget this ABC thing, because you're going to be about learning the alphabet backwards. And you start with this new idea, and it's a new sequence.
and you have it served, and you sniff it, and say, this is with fresh vegetables, beautifully smooth dish, and you taste it, and hey, this is a new experience. You start learning. And in the learning process, you begin to love it, and then in the end, you're walking through the meadow of your mind instead of screaming down the highway to a habit that might do you injury. Okay? Well, there it is. Neat dish. I'll tell you what, this is the sort of thing that can build the most wonderful cuisine at home. Okay? So try it, won't you, please, very soon. Till next week, God bless you.